Hello everybody. So a few weeks ago when I hit 200 subscribers, which is kind of crazy to think of because right now I'm at 500, which is I cannot even fathom this number, honestly. Hello, everyone. I offered to check out the stocks requested by you guys, and I did a video then about it. And there was one stock which I promised to do a deeper dive on and come back with a deeper analysis on. And this is it. That was Veolia Environment, a French utility, multi-utility company. This video is not going to be a very deep dive because once I tried to look at it deeper, I immediately understood that it wasn't for me, and that overall I don't think it's a very good investment right now. And in this video I will share why. So it's gonna be pretty brief, I hope, but I always promise that, and it's never coming out this way. But yeah, this is gonna be a brief one about Veolia Environment. So this is Veolia Environment, and when we looked at it back in the previous video, I said that it looks like something very severe happened to it after the great financial recession, but since then it seems like it was growing pretty steadily, pretty nicely. Those are the operating earnings, but if we look at cash flow, it's even more obvious that after this big disaster, whatever it was, which we'll talk about in a minute, of course, it seems like really it's cash flows and it's a utility, so cash flows are usually the way to look. Have been growing very nicely, and currently it seems like it really has some kind of an undervaluation and maybe an upside. Fastgraphs changed their UI a little bit of 50%. Maybe it looks very interesting. So I began a deep dive, and what I expected when I said that I will check what happened here and how much does it scare me that something like that could happen again now. And what I expected is to find out that something unusual happened, like it maybe spun off some of its business, or there was, I don't know, something outrageous, something scandalous happened to the company where, as you can see, its cash flows are really fell almost 4 times, and its stock price as well, and it never really recovered since then. Only now it seems like it's coming close to breaking even since 2008. That's in the operating cash flow, but the stock price has never really recovered since then. And as we can see, maybe it was a bit overvalued then, but again, 10 times cash flow, I'm not sure how overvalued that is. And if we look at earnings at PE multiple, we've seen that it reached 32 multiple maybe back then, but if we look at this valuation, for example, it was 25, where here it was also about 30 and 25, and currently just before this down trend in its stock price, it also was around 20, 22. So it wasn't that crazy overvalued, just this huge slump in its earnings and in its cash flows, which it never really recovered since then. So when I began to research what exactly happened there, I discovered to my surprise that nothing really special happened there except the great financial recession, the good old macro downturn that affected so much Veolia Environment. So talking about the business of Veolia, they operate mostly, they had all kind of businesses back then also when they already spun off, divested from, but they mainly operate in water management, waste management, and energy services, and it is a non-regulated utility. So its customers are not like homes and private and the end customers of residential houses and buildings. Its customers are mostly industrial customers and municipalities and governments. So it is a non-regulated utility, which makes it less stable, less safe, and more prone to sensitivity to the economic cycles also. So that's exactly what we see here. So when 2008 hit Veolia Environment, what happened is if each of its sectors really suffered, from the downturn in the economy, where the economic slowdown affected every one of its businesses. So the segment that suffered the most was the waste management, where the end product of paper and plastic from their recycling business, the commodity prices really fell, and it really affected the profits of Veolia Environment. And in the water segment also, they had this contractual difficulties, as they called it, where they were having a hard time to seal new contracts, to expand their business, to do new projects, and essentially every aspect of the business suffered. So although water sounds like something that people still need to have in a recession, it turns out that the Veolia's customers are mostly municipalities and governments, where they delayed their payments, and they closed shorter contracts. Veolia usually works with long-term contracts, so they were pushing for shorter contracts and kind of delaying any kind of expansion and the maintenance projects and everything. So the water also suffered during the financial recession, and the energy also, because most of their customers are industrial, and of course during the such a huge economic slowdown like we had after 2008, industrial customers were essentially working less and doing less production, and maybe closing also production facilities. Maybe some customers were going out of business even. So we see that Veolia Environment really had it hard as a result of the great financial recession, and what's more, that it went into the recession with after very aggressive expansion period. So it had piled up a huge amount of debt, and when the recession hit, it found itself with those projects which were kind of stalling, and this huge pile of debt where it needed to refinance it, and credits was shrinking, and so it was very hard to refinance. So it had a myriad of problems coming due to the financial recession, which really for me was very surprising. So my conclusion from it was that Veolia Environment is a very cyclical business, deep cyclical business. If an economic downturn, and yes, granted that the great financial recession was a serious downturn, but that's all we have, right? And we see how the last recession, how badly it went for the company. I think a company that is this cyclical, the only way, it's not me, not that I think, Peter Lynch has said that the way to invest in a cyclical company like that is to wait for this complete downturn, when after the cycle has already kind of pulled down and the earnings have fallen for the company, and you should still wait for things to begin to improve a little bit and then to invest. So if it was Peter Lynch, you would probably invest somewhere here, and wait, I don't know, for until when to have this 9% return. Probably still not the best, but definitely the time that wouldn't be right to invest in such a company would be just when things look bright and good, because that's the uptrend of the cycle, which will eventually, I don't know when and I don't know why, but it will eventually revert. And if we have a recession, that's what investors are looking for, a decline of around 85% in the price of the stock. So yeah, for me, Veolia Environment, I don't think it's a good investment right now, again, because of this high cyclicality. Right now we see that earnings and cash flows are supposed to be going up, and they've been going up for the last 10 years, because we've been in a bull market and everything seems fine, and Veolia is really enjoying that. But once the cycle will turn, Veolia is gonna have a very hard time again, probably like it did in 2008. So some things might have have changed. We are almost 20 years after that. But from what I understand, the basis did not change. It's still an unregulated utility. Its biggest businesses are still the water, the waste, and the energy, and its clients are still the same clients. So there have been some changes. It has a lot of initiatives in something else I wanted to mention. It does have a lot of initiatives in especially around the environmental changes and all kind of ecological projects of recycling and turning waste into energy and all kind of that, and great initiatives. But first of all, we don't know how economic they will be for us investors, that we need to look at the numbers. And also in terms of just policies of different countries, especially in the West, I don't know how much of an emphasis and focus there will be in the next few years, a decade, on environmental issues and I don't know, climate change and ESG policies. And that's a question every investor should answer for themselves. But there is this also this political and policy issue also. But the main reason for me, I think that I don't think this investment is right for me is because it seems like it's very, very sensitive to a recession, and right now everything looks fine, and that would be probably the worst time to invest in a stock like this, when everything looks fine, because after that, that's what is waiting for us, right? So that's it. That's about Veolia. I hope I did it briefly this time. So that's it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.